Hello fellow humans and welcome to the Madhouse. I'm Josh. Today is Wednesday, so that means it's time for Top 5 Wednesday. Today's topic is the top 5 books you did not finish. Now, I'm ashamed to say that I actually could do something for this one because I typically try to finish every book I pick up. For one thing, I like to think I have very good taste in books, and most of the ones I do read are enjoyable in some way. And B, I try to give every book the benefit of the doubt. Even if I'm not sure about it, I will keep going until I reach a point where I simply cannot go any further. That may be simply because of writing style or plot or issues with characters, or maybe it's just not my thing. Take Pride and Prejudice for example. It's an excellently written book that's characters are interesting developed and its plot is okay, but it's just not my cup of tea. I'm not one for such extreme sentimentality and, well, while I loathe the term, wishy-washy characters. It was very difficult to get this to a list of 5, but I finally managed it, so here they are, the top 5 books that I could not finish. At number 5 there is Space by Benjamin Zephaniah. This is a book that I had read in a play format at primary school and absolutely adored. I thought it was excellently written, and Benjamin Zephaniah has a wonderful way with words. I recommend you read his poetry. Pretty good, especially his Turkeys at Christmas one. If I could do a better Jamaican accent, I would attempt to read some for you. This book is about a boy who has pretty much got everything. He's white and he's British, so he's automatically got a little bit of privilege there, but he's also quite active and sporty and does gymnastics, and he is really arrogant. And then one day he has an accident that's quite disfiguring, and all of a sudden he starts to look at things from someone else's perspective. And when I was younger I thought that was fantastic, because I was never arrogant for, well, my physical capabilities, but certainly my mental ones. I'd always been told that I was the smartest person in almost any given circumstance, and even now I'm still liable to believe that that's correct, even when it may not in fact be true, though that is a rare occurrence. So reading it then I found very helpful, but attempting to read it recently didn't do anything for me, perhaps because the original time it was in the form of a script for a play, whereas now it's a full novel. It doesn't quite work so well. It's not so powerful or moving. It's far too meanderous. If I had read the play again, perhaps I would, but I simply had to stop after about 30 pages of the book. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Up next there is Shagger by Niall Griffith. Probably said something like Griffiths, but I'm not sure. It's a very Welsh name and it kind of escapes me a little bit. The story itself is apparently one of self-discovery of national identity, specifically that of Welsh identity, in response to English colonialism and imperialism. I mean, I'm not sure it's exactly colonialism when you can drive there, but you get the picture. I had to read this for part of my degree course, and I actually started doing it during my Dewey's 24-hour readathon in March, or was it April, of last year. I put it down very, very quickly. I could not stand the thing. I can understand how perhaps to a Welsh person it might be appropriate to see their identity explored, but as an Englishman who firstly identifies as British before English anyway, it seemed quite pointless. For me, we are just one unified nation, and all of this talk of an independent Wales or an independent Scotland just seems silly. In order for a species to survive, I reckon we need to put aside such petty differences as old grudges. Given the nature of the world at present, we should be tearing borders down and opening them up to the entire world, preparing to perhaps one day, and maybe I'm being very idealistic and not at all practical in this one, to become a Federated States of Europe and then eventually a United States of planet Earth. Now that does of course make it sound quite American in style, but eventually that's how it will happen if it does. Anyway, I've probably offended a lot of my Welsh friends and viewers here, so sorry, but I don't get it. The book itself is, in my view, poorly written. Perhaps it's intentionally so, because it's obviously deviating from standard English with almost no punctuation or grammar in a way that I think is supposed to rebel against the standards imposed on them from above, from the English. And I can see what that might symbolise, but I don't enjoy it in the slightest. Great book for the Welsh perhaps, but not for me. At number 3 there is The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. This is a book that I have only tried to read twice, in fact. The first time I picked it up because it was the first book Rowling had released since Harry Potter, and I was expecting something as magical as that again. And within the first few chapters you would not believe how many references to sex and drugs there are unless you read it yourself. It's entirely different, not what I was expecting. And then the second time when I tried to read it, I really wanted to get into it, but then a few books I'd been looking forward to for a very long time came out, and well, they took priority. I am specifically thinking of The Long Utopia by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter when I say this. That was when the second time it came out, but I hope to give it another go this summer because it's apparently a very clever piece of social commentary, and now that I have started reading a lot more adult fiction, I'm hoping to be prepared for it. At number 2 there is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now I have to say I absolutely love this cover, it's really gold and pretty, but the book itself, the story within it, I don't like at all. Jane Eyre is perhaps a proto-feminist character for her time in that she has some semblance of an independent way of thinking that was not seen in literature for quite some time, but I just can't stand the overt sentimentalism and the fact that she depends on her lovers. Well, not sure about lovers being the right word, but you get the picture. It's too soppy for me. Every time I looked at it, I just want to shout at them, Jane especially, just go on, get on with it. You don't have to wait for anyone else to decide, you just do it. Perhaps she does that later on in the book, but I couldn't bring myself to find out. There are 2 honourable mentions of, well, 50 Shades of Grey, because I got about 3 chapters and had to stop. I only read it to do a parody of it in the Hounds Reads video. The other honourable mention is Nick Hornby's High Fidelity, which is actually an excellently written book, and the film is okay but very Americanised compared to what this is. I really wanted to continue with this, I just got distracted by another book. That happens quite often with me. It took me about 3 months to finish the bookshop book, and it really shouldn't have done. And lastly there is this, my very old battered copy of The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm going to possibly say something very offensive here, but I cannot stand to finish The Lord of the Rings. Every time I pick it up, it's just far too long-winded. I do not need 50 pages about the lives of hobbits before we get to the main story. I understand that from a world-building point of view, it's fantastic, and he's the first person to have really gone into such depth in a magical fantasy world. In fact, he pretty much invented the genre. But I don't like it. If they'd done something a bit like with the Inheritance cycle by Christopher Paolini, where you just have the books with enough explanation for the story to make sense and the plot, and then release a book of the lore separately, that would have been incredibly useful and possibly made me able to enjoy it more. And it's not that I don't like Tolkien's style of writing as a rule, because I love The Hobbit and I love The Silmarillion, but I cannot get through The Fellowship. So, that's it. Do you think I'm mad for not being able to finish some of these, or would you happen to agree with me? Please let me know. If you are interested in buying any of these books, as always, I am a Book Depository affiliate and my link will be down below. I would appreciate it immensely, because I'm saving to go abroad in September now. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please click like and share it and comment down below. And if you're not subscribed already, please do so. Be kind to yourself and to others and inspired. Goodbye!